Subscribe now to catch stories that will leave you speechless. This anniversary turned into a day I will never forget. It was our 5th anniversary, a milestone I had been quietly anticipating for months. I had planned a simple dinner at home, a few candles, her favorite wine, and a small gift to show her that after all these years, I still really saw her. Marriage was never about grand gestures for me. It was about moments, shared smiles, and quiet understanding. Claire, my wife, had been distant lately. Not just work-stress distant, but a chilling, deliberate distance that gnawed at the edges of our life together. I tried to ignore it, convinced that routine, deadlines, or exhaustion were the culprits. But today, on our anniversary, I hoped to bridge that distance, even briefly. The door clicked and she stepped in, elegant and poised, her expression unreadable. For a moment I imagined the familiar warmth, the smile that had made me fall in love. But it didn't come. Instead, her eyes were sharp, calculating, and I realized immediately that something was off. "I need to talk," she said in that flat, measured tone that made my chest tighten. My heart sank, a quiet warning echoing in my mind. "About tonight?" I asked, trying to keep the tension at bay. "No," she said simply, almost cruelly. "About us." A cold dread settled over me, and before I could fully grasp it, she delivered the words I had been hoping never to hear. "I want a divorce." The room felt suddenly smaller, heavier, as if the walls themselves were pressing in. My mind raced, 5 years, shared memories, everything we built together, and she could reduce it all to a single sentence. I opened my mouth to respond, but no words came. I could feel the silence stretching between us, tense and suffocating. Then came the twist I hadn't expected. Claire's cousin, Vanessa, who had been quietly standing behind her, spoke. Calm, deliberate, with a slight edge of mischief in her voice, she said, "Before you decide everything, maybe there's something you should know, something that changes everything." My heart thudded. I stared at Vanessa, unsure whether she was about to intervene, reveal a secret, or manipulate the moment further. Claire's glare shot at her, a mixture of frustration and warning, but Vanessa didn't flinch. The balance of power in the room was shifting, and I knew that what happened next could change not just the anniversary, but the entire trajectory of our lives together. I watched Claire and Vanessa, trying to decipher their intentions. Claire's eyes were cold, but Vanessa's gaze was sharp and deliberate, as if she knew something I didn't. The air between us was heavy with tension, thick enough to make each breath feel measured. "You're making a decision based on anger, not truth," Vanessa said quietly, her voice calm but commanding. "You think ending things will fix everything, but you haven't seen the full picture." Claire's jaw tightened. "Vanessa, this isn't your business," she snapped, a flicker of irritation in her tone. But Vanessa didn't step back. Instead, she leaned forward slightly, her presence shifting the room's energy entirely. "You've misunderstood Mark," Vanessa continued, looking at Claire with an intensity that made her falter for a brief moment. "You think he doesn't know, but he knows more than you realize. And the real question is, are you ready to face the consequences of your choice?" I felt my heart rate increase, a mixture of fear, anger, and anticipation coursing through me. Vanessa had always been clever, observant, and fiercely loyal to family. But now she was playing a role I hadn't anticipated. The words she chose, the timing, everything was precise. Claire's lips parted as if she wanted to speak, to argue, but the impact of Vanessa's words had caught her off guard. I realized then that this was no ordinary confrontation. This was a carefully orchestrated revelation, designed to expose the truth Claire had tried to hide from everyone, including me. "What truth?" Claire finally asked, her voice lower, hesitant. She looked at Vanessa, uncertainty creeping into her posture. Vanessa turned to me briefly, her eyes locking with mine. That small glance carried volumes, validation, strategy, and a hint of challenge. I understood immediately. Whatever was about to be revealed, I had to remain calm. The next moments could determine not just the fate of our marriage, but the balance of power in the room. Then Vanessa spoke softly, yet with a clarity that cut through the tension. "You think walking away will solve this, Claire. But the real shock isn't the divorce. It's what he already knows about your decision and why you chose it." Claire froze, her expression a mixture of fear, realization, and panic. I could feel the entire dynamic shift. What she had planned as a unilateral move to control the outcome of our relationship was crumbling under the weight of someone else's knowledge, and I was at the center of it all, quietly observing, ready to act if necessary. Claire's face drained of color as Vanessa's words sank in. For the first time in years, I saw hesitation, vulnerability, and fear flicker across her features. The divorce she had announced with such certainty now seemed fragile, almost reversible. You knew," Claire stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. I nodded slowly, keeping my tone neutral, letting the weight of the moment settle. "I didn't need her to tell me," I said, glancing at Vanessa. "Some things become obvious if you pay attention. I've always noticed the patterns, the decisions, the silences." Vanessa stepped back, giving us both space, her role complete. The power shift was palpable. Claire realized she had miscalculated. Not just with me, but with everyone who had seen the truth she tried to bury. I thought this was the only way," Claire admitted, her voice cracking slightly. She sank into the couch, the defiance fading into uncertainty. "I didn't think you'd understand. I didn't think anyone would." I sat down across from her, keeping my emotions in check. Years of shared memories, challenges, and growth flashed before my eyes. Betrayal had been in the air, yes, but so had love, patience, and endurance. Today wasn't just a birthday, an anniversary, or a gesture. It was a reckoning. "Claire," I said gently, "it's not about understanding. It's about truth. You can't run from it, hide from it, or manipulate it. You can only face it. And now you're faced with your choice. Do you walk away? Or do you see what could have been saved?" Her eyes filled with tears, the weight of regret pressing down. She realized that the surprise she had planned, divorce on our anniversary, wasn't a victory but a moment of exposure. She hadn't anticipated Vanessa's insight, my awareness, or the undeniable consequences of her actions. For a long moment, silence filled the room. And then Claire whispered, I don't want to lose everything. I was scared." I reached out, placing a hand lightly on hers, the gesture small but significant. It wasn't about forgiveness yet, nor was it about undoing the past. It was about acknowledgement, acknowledging truth, mistakes, and the possibility of redemption. Vanessa gave me a knowing nod before stepping out, leaving us alone. The tension in the room had dissolved, replaced by something fragile but real: clarity. The anniversary had begun with shock, betrayal, and fear, but it ended with revelation, honesty, and the chance to rebuild. That day, nothing was ordinary. Claire's decision, the cousin's intervention, and my quiet observation had created a moment none of us would forget. The anniversary would be remembered, not for gifts or celebrations, but for truths revealed, choices confronted, and the raw, unfiltered reality of love and consequences.